The silence hit first, not the kind that falls naturally over a busy restaurant, but the kind that drops like a stone when something terrible is about to happen. Samantha felt it in her bones, that sudden shift in the air, before she even turned around. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. The clinking of glasses ceased, and then she heard his voice. Samantha, cold, precise, unforgiving. Nicholas stood in the center of the dining room, his dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach drop. He was dressed impeccably as always, sharp black suit, not a thread out of place. But there was something different in his expression today. Something final. Her heart hammered against her ribs. In 2 years of working here, he had never addressed her directly, never even looked at her for more than a passing second. He dealt with management, with numbers, with the cold machinery of business, but now he was looking at her like she had committed an unforgivable sin. "Yes, sir." Her voice came out steadier than she felt. She clutched the edge of the nearest table, acutely aware that every single person in the restaurant was watching. The elegant chandeliers cast warm light over the scene, but she felt cold. "So cold, I need you to explain something to me." He took a step closer. His posture was rigid, controlled, but there was an edge to his tone that sent warning bells screaming through her mind. "Can you tell me why I just reviewed yesterday's security footage and saw you doing something that goes against everything this establishment stands for?" The words hit like a physical blow. Security footage. Yesterday, what had she? Her mind raced backward, scrambling through memories of her shift. She had served tables, smiled at customers, dealt with the usual chaos of lunch service. Nothing out of the ordinary. Nothing wrong. I don't understand, she managed, her voice smaller now. The weight of dozens of eyes pressed down on her shoulders. Some customers were pulling out phones. This was about to become a spectacle. "Let me refresh your memory." Nicholas reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He held it up, screen facing her. "This. Explain this." Samantha squinted at the screen, her vision blurring with the sudden rush of panic. The footage was grainy but clear enough. It showed her. But doing what? She could not make sense of what she was seeing through the haze of fear clouding her thoughts. "I gave you a chance to be honest," Nicholas said, his voice dropping even lower, colder. "You chose not to take it, Mr. Hayes. Please, you are fired." The words cut through the air like a blade. Effective immediately. "You have 5 minutes to collect your things and leave the premises. If you are not gone by then, I will have security escort you out." The room spun, fired publicly. In front of everyone, Samantha's legs felt like water. Her carefully constructed coquet, the elegant bun she had spent 20 minutes perfecting that morning, suddenly felt too tight, pulling at her scalp, adding to the pressure building behind her eyes. This could not be happening. Not now. Not when she was already 3 months behind on rent. Not when her landlord had already slid the eviction notice under her door last week. Not when she had been counting every single dollar, every single tip just to survive. "Please." The word escaped before she could stop it. Desperate, broken. "Please, Mr. Hayes, I need this job. Whatever you think I did, 5 minutes, Samantha." He turned away, dismissing her as if she were nothing. As if 2 years of dedicated service meant absolutely nothing. She stood there, frozen, as the whispers erupted around her like wildfire. "Did you see that? Oh my God, he just fired her in front of everyone. What did she do? Poor girl." But beneath the pity, Samantha heard something else. Judgment, curiosity. The sick fascination people have when they witness someone else's world crumbling. She wanted to scream, to demand an explanation, to fight back. But the look in Nicholas Hayes' eyes, that cold, absolute certainty, told her it would be useless. So instead, she did the only thing she could do. She turned and walked toward the back, her vision swimming with unshed tears, her entire life falling apart with every step. And Nicholas watched her go, his expression unreadable, his jaw set in that stubborn line that everyone who knew him recognized. He was convinced he was right. He was always convinced he was right. But this time, there was something else flickering in those dark eyes, something that looked almost like regret, The staff locker room smelled like cleaning solution and stale coffee. Samantha stood in front of her locker, hands shaking so badly she could barely work the combination lock. Behind her, the door swung open. Maria, one of the senior waitresses, stepped inside. "Sam, honey, are you okay?" The question broke something inside her. Samantha's throat tightened, but she forced herself to breathe. "To stay standing, do not completely fall apart. I am fine." The lie tasted bitter. "What happened out there?" "What did you do?" "I do not know," and that was the truth. The terrifying, maddening truth. She had no idea what Nicholas thought he had seen on that security footage. No idea what crime she had supposedly committed. Maria moved closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Listen, I heard Mr. Hayes talking to Daniel before he went out there. He was furious. Something about money missing from the register yesterday during your shift." The words hit like ice water. "What?" "No, I would never—" "I know, sweetie. I know you would not." Maria squeezed her shoulder. "But someone told him you were the only one with access during that window of time." Samantha's mind spun. The register. Yesterday, she had covered the front during the afternoon rush when Daniel had to deal with a kitchen emergency. It had been chaos. Orders flying in, customers impatient, the card reader acting up. But steal. She would rather starve than steal. "I did not take anything," she whispered, more to herself than to Maria. "I swear I did not." "Then someone set you up." Maria's expression darkened. "And I think I know who." Before Samantha could respond, the door burst open again. This time it was Stephen, the assistant manager. Young, ambitious, and always hovering near Nicholas whenever he visited. "Time's up, Samantha. You need to leave. Now." Maria shot him a glare that could cut glass. "Give her a minute, Stephen." "Have some decency." Mr. Hayes said 5 minutes. "'Tis been 7. Stephen crossed his arms, trying to look authoritative but mostly succeeding in looking petty. "I am just following orders." Samantha grabbed her purse and jacket from the locker, moving mechanically. She felt detached from her own body, like she was watching this happen to someone else. As she walked past Stephen, he leaned in slightly. "Should have been more careful," he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. "This place has standards." She stopped, turned, looked him dead in the eye for a moment, just a brief burning moment. She considered saying something, defending herself, demanding justice, but what was the point? Nicholas Hayes had already made his decision. He had humiliated her in front of a room full of people. He had destroyed her reputation with a handful of words. And men like him. They never admitted they were wrong, so instead, Samantha lifted her chin, straightened her shoulders, and walked out of that locker room with whatever dignity she had left. The back exit led to an alley behind the restaurant. The afternoon sun was too bright, too cheerful for the devastation churning inside her. She leaned against the brick wall, finally allowing herself to breathe. 3 months behind on rent. An eviction notice waiting at home, no job. No references? Because who would hire someone publicly fired by Nicholas Hayes? Her phone buzzed. Text from her landlord, final notice. Pay by Friday or vacate immediately, Friday. That was 3 days away. Samantha slid down the wall until she was sitting on the grimy pavement, her carefully styled hair coming loose, her hands covering her face. She had worked so hard. Saved every penny. Never complained, never missed a shift. Never caused problems, and it had. All been ripped away in 5 minutes. By a man who did not even know her. Name until today. By a man who was so convinced of his own righteousness that he did not stop to ask questions. By a man who had just made the biggest mistake of his life and had no idea. Inside the restaurant, Nicholas stood at his office window, looking down at the alley below. He could see her there, small, broken, alone, his jaw clenched. He had done what was necessary, what was right. The evidence was clear. So why did his chest feel so tight? Why did he feel like he had just done something unforgivable? He turned away from the window, pushing the thought aside. He was right. He had to be right. He was always right. Samantha's apartment was exactly as depressing as she remembered, small, dark, the kind of place where dreams went to die quietly in the corner. She dropped her purse on the sagging couch and stared at the eviction notice taped to her door. The red letters screamed at her, final warning. Like she needed the reminder, 3 days. She had 3 days to come up with $2,000. Impossible. She had $87 in her checking account. Another $40 in cash tucked in her wallet. That was it. That was everything standing between her and homelessness. Her phone rang. Unknown number. For a split second, hope flared in her chest. Maybe it was the restaurant. Maybe Nicholas had realized his mistake. Maybe, Miss Thompson? This is County Collections calling about your outstanding medical bills. She hung up without listening to the rest. The medical bills. Right. Because of course there were medical bills too. From that emergency room visit 6 months ago, when she had collapsed from exhaustion and dehydration. Working double shifts, skipping meals to save money, pushing herself until her body simply gave out. The bill had been $3,000. She had been paying it off in tiny increments. But now she had nothing. Samantha walked to her bedroom, barely big enough, for the twin mattress on the floor, and caught sight of herself in the cracked mirror. Hanging on the wall, her hair had fallen completely out of the elegant bun. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her uniform blouse was wrinkled from where she had been clutching the fabric, trying to hold herself together. She looked destroyed, and maybe that was fitting, because she was destroyed. 2 years. She had given that restaurant 2 years of her life. Smiled through entitled customers. Worked holidays. Covered shifts for people who called in sick. Never complained, never caused drama. Never gave anyone a reason to doubt her. And Nicholas Hayes had thrown it all away without even asking her side of the story. The anger came then, hot and sharp and overwhelming. Who did he think he was? Yes, he was rich. Yes, he was successful. Yes, he owned half the commercial real estate in the city, but that did not give him the right to destroy someone's life based on, what, grainy security footage? Someone's accusation? She thought about his face when he had fired her. That cold certainty, that absolute conviction that he was right. Men like him never had to face consequences, never had to wonder where their next meal was coming from, never had to choose between paying rent and buying groceries. They just made decisions from their glass towers. And people like her paid the price. Samantha's phone buzzed again. This time a text from Maria. I am so sorry, honey. If you need anything, let me know. And Sam? I asked around. Stephen was the one who told Mr. Hayes about the missing money. Said he reviewed the footage himself. Something feels wrong about this. Stephen. Of course it was Stephen. She remembered the way he had looked at her last month when she had turned down his invitation to drinks after work. The way his expression had soured. The way he had been cold to her ever since. But surely he would not. He could not have. Another text came through. He has been after the assistant manager promotion for months. Word is Mr. Hayes was considering you for it instead. Just saying. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Stephen had sabotaged her. Stolen the money himself or just lied about it. Set her up to take the fall. All because she had rejected him. All because she stood in the way of what he wanted. And Nicholas Hayes had believed him without question. Samantha sat on the edge of her mattress, her hands trembling with rage and helplessness. What could she do? Go back and accuse Stephen without proof? Demand that Nicholas listen to her when he had already made up his mind? She was nobody. Just a waitress. Disposable. Replaceable. While Nicholas Hayes was everything. Powerful. Connected. Untouchable. The injustice of it burned in her throat. But beneath the anger, beneath the despair, something else stirred. Something stubborn and fierce that refused to stay down. She had not done anything wrong. And somehow, some way, she was going to prove it, even if Nicholas Hayes never believed her, even if it cost her everything she had left. She deserved the truth. And the truth always found a way to surface. The next morning arrived with cruel indifference. Samantha woke to sunlight cutting through her thin curtains, her body aching from a night spent tossing on the bare mattress. For one blissful second she forgot. Then reality crashed back in. No job, no money, no future. She dragged herself to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. The mirror reflected someone she barely recognized. Hollow-eyed, pale, defeated. Her phone showed 7 missed calls from her landlord. She ignored them all. What was the point? She did not have the money. Nothing she could say would change that simple, devastating fact. Coffee. She needed coffee, but when she opened the cabinet, she found it empty. Right. She had used the last of it yesterday morning. Back when she still had a job. Back when life still made sense. Samantha grabbed her jacket and headed out, intending to walk to the corner store. Maybe she could afford one small cup. Maybe that would be enough to help her think clearly. To figure out what came next. The hallway of her building smelled like mildew and someone's burnt breakfast. Mrs. Chen from apartment 2B was collecting her mail, and she gave Samantha a look that was equal parts pity and judgment. News traveled fast in this building. Outside, the morning air was crisp. The city was already alive. People rushing to work, to school, to lives that had purpose and direction. Samantha felt like a ghost moving through it all. She made it 3 blocks before she saw him, Nicholas Hayes. He was standing outside a sleek black car, talking on his phone, looking every bit the powerful billionaire he was. His suit probably cost more than her entire year's rent. Her feet stopped moving. Her heart hammered against her ribs. What was he doing here? This was not his neighborhood. Men like him did not come to places like this. And then he looked up, and their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Samantha saw something flicker across his face. Surprise, maybe, or discomfort. But then his expression hardened back into that cold mask she knew so well. He ended his phone call, walked toward her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to turn around and disappear before he could humiliate her again. But her pride, that stubborn, burning pride, kept her rooted in place. Samantha. His voice was carefully neutral. Mr. Hayes. She was proud of how steady she sounded, how she managed to look him in the eye despite everything. He paused, and for the first time since she had known him, Nicholas Hayes looked uncertain. I need to speak with you. I think you said everything you needed to say yesterday. The words came out sharper than she intended. In front of everyone, his jaw tightened. I know, and I owe you an explanation. Samantha laughed in a bitter, broken sound. Now you want to explain? After you destroyed my reputation? After you made sure no one in this city will ever hire me again? It was not... He stopped himself. Took a breath. Can we talk somewhere private? Why, so you can fire me again? Oh, wait. You already did that. She started to walk past him, her vision blurring with angry tears she refused to let fall. His hand caught her arm. Gentle but firm, please, the word stopped her. Nicholas Hayes did not say please. Men like him did not ask. They commanded. She turned to face him, and what she saw in his eyes made her breath catch. Regret. Real, genuine regret. 5 minutes, he said quietly. Just give me 5 minutes. And then you can decide if you want to hear what I have to say. Samantha wanted to refuse. Wanted to walk away with her head held high and leave him standing there wondering. But curiosity, and maybe a desperate need for answers, won out. 5 minutes, she agreed coldly. And you better make them count, Nicholas nodded. He gestured toward a small cafe across the street. There? They walked in silence, the tension between them thick enough to cut. Inside, the cafe was warm and smelled like fresh pastries. Nicholas ordered 2 coffees without asking what she wanted. Normally, that would have annoyed her. Today, she was too exhausted to care. They sat at a corner table, away from other customers. Nicholas wrapped his hands around his coffee cup, staring at it like it held all the answers to questions he had not yet figured out how to ask. Yesterday, he finally began, I was told that $200 was missing from the afternoon register. Security footage showed you were the only one with access during that time frame. I did not take it. Her voice was flat, final, I know. The words hung in the air between them. Samantha's heart stuttered. What? Nicholas looked up, meeting her eyes directly. I reviewed the full footage last night, all of it. Not just the clip I was shown. His expression darkened. Someone edited what they showed me. Someone lied. The world tilted sideways. Samantha stared at him, unable to process the words. You know? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. You know I did not take that money? Yes, Nicholas's jaw clenched. I spent all night going through every second of footage. The clip I was shown had been edited, timestamps altered, When I reviewed the original files, I saw what really happened. And what really happened? The anger was building now, hot and fierce in her chest. Stephen took the money himself, earlier in the day, during a shift change. Then he doctored the footage to make it look like you were the only one with access during the time frame when it went missing. Nicholas's eyes hardened. He played me. And I fell for it. The confession should have felt like vindication. Instead, it felt like salt in an open wound. So you are telling me... Samantha's hands trembled around her coffee cup. You are telling me that you fired me, humiliated me in front of everyone, destroyed my reputation and my livelihood, because you did not bother to check the facts first? I thought I had checked the facts. His voice was quiet, but there was steel underneath. Stephen is my assistant manager. I trusted him, but you did not trust me. The words came out sharp as broken glass. You did not even ask for my side of the story. You just decided I was guilty and threw me away like I was nothing. Nicholas flinched. Actually flinched. Good. He should feel that. You are right, he said after a long moment. I made a terrible mistake. I let my tendency to act quickly, to trust my judgment without question. I let it blind me to the truth. Your tendency? Samantha laughed, but there was no humor in it. That is a polite way of saying you are arrogant. That you think you are always right. That people like me, we are just disposable. That is not, is it not? She leaned forward, her brown eyes blazing. Tell me, Mr. Hayes, when you fired me yesterday, did you think about what that would do to my life? Did you wonder if maybe I had bills to pay? Rent that was already overdue? Did you consider for even 1 second that you might be wrong? Silence that followed was answer enough. I have an eviction notice on my door, Samantha continued, her voice shaking now. I have 3 days to come up with money I do not have. I have medical bills I cannot pay. And now I have no job and no way to fix any of it. Because you were too proud to ask questions before you destroyed me. Nicholas's expression was unreadable, but something flickered in those dark eyes. Something that might have been shame. I cannot undo what I did, he said finally. But I can try to make it right. Make it right. Samantha shook her head. How? By giving me my job back? By telling everyone you made a mistake? She laughed bitterly. Men like you do not admit mistakes, Mr. Hayes. It would damage your precious reputation. I do not care about my reputation. The words came out fierce, surprising them both. I care about fixing what I broke. Samantha wanted to believe him. Some part of her, the part that was still desperately hopeful despite everything, wanted to think he was sincere. But trust was a luxury she could no longer afford. Stephen has been fired, Nicholas continued. I called the police this morning. He will face charges for theft and fraud. And I want to offer you your position back. With a formal apology, in front of the entire staff. It should have been enough, but somehow it was not. And then what? Samantha asked quietly. I go back to serving tables while everyone whispers about me? While they remember the day you humiliated me? While they wonder if maybe I really did do something wrong? Then I will make it clear you did not. Nicholas's voice was firm. Absolute. I will personally ensure that everyone knows the truth. That you were set up. That you are innocent. Your word against the memory of what they saw. Samantha stood up, suddenly exhausted. Thank you for the coffee, Mr. Hayes, and for finally bothering to learn the truth. But I think I am done with your restaurant. She turned to leave. Wait. Nicholas stood as well, something desperate creeping into his tone. Please, there is more. She looked back at him, wary. What more could there possibly be? He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an envelope. Plain, white sealed. I know an apology is not enough. I know giving you your job back does not fix what I cost you. He held out the envelope. So I want to offer you something else. Something that might actually help. Samantha stared at the envelope like it might bite her. What is it? Open it when you get home. His eyes met hers, and for the first time she saw something vulnerable there. Something real. And then decide if you can forgive me. Against every instinct, every ounce of common sense. Samantha reached out and took the envelope. It was heavier than she expected. This does not mean I forgive you, she said quietly. I know. Nicholas nodded. But maybe Maybe it is a start. The envelope felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Samantha walked back to her apartment in a daze, clutching it against her chest like it might disappear if she loosened her grip. The conversation with Nicholas replayed in her mind on an endless loop. He knew the truth. He knew she was innocent, but knowing and acting were two different things. And she had learned the hard way that Nicholas Hayes was a man of action. Quick decisions. Absolute certainty, even when he was absolutely wrong. She climbed the stairs to her apartment, each step feeling heavier than the last. Mrs. Chen peeked out from her doorway, curiosity written all over her face, but Samantha ignored her. Inside, she locked the door and leaned against it, staring at the envelope in her hands. What could possibly be inside? A check, some kind of severance pay? Money would help. God knew she needed it desperately, but money could not erase what he had done, could not undo the humiliation, could not restore the reputation he had destroyed with a handful of cold words. Her hands shook as she tore open the seal. Inside, there were two things. First, a set of keys, modern, silver, attached to a sleek keychain with an address engraved on it. 7 Riverside Towers, Penthouse 4. Samantha's heart stuttered. Riverside Towers. She knew that building. Everyone in the city knew that building. It was one of the most exclusive addresses in town. Glass and steel rising into the sky like a monument to wealth and success. Penthouses there went for, she could not even imagine how much. Millions, certainly. Why would Nicholas give her keys to a place like that? The second item was a letter. Handwritten. His penmanship was precise, controlled, every letter perfectly formed. She unfolded it with trembling fingers. Samantha, I know words cannot fix what I have done. I know an apology, no matter how sincere, cannot undo the damage I caused. But I want to try. The keys you are holding belong to a penthouse property that has been sitting vacant for the past year. It was meant to be temporary housing for executive staff, but it has never been used. The property is yours. Fully paid, no rent, no strings, no conditions. You can live there for as long as you need. A year, 5 years, forever. It is the least I can do to help you get back on your feet after I knocked you down. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect gratitude. I need to know that you are not going to lose everything because of my mistake. The choice is yours. Take it or do not. But please know that this offer comes with no ulterior motives, no expectations. I simply want to do the right thing, even if I should have done it from the beginning. Nicholas. Samantha read the letter 3 times, then a 4th. Then she sat down on her sagging couch and stared at the keys in her palm, her mind struggling to process what was happening. A penthouse, free, no rent, no strings. It was insane, impossible, too good to be true. Men like Nicholas Hayes did not just give away penthouses. There had to be a catch, some hidden clause, some expectation buried beneath the surface. But the letter seemed genuine, raw even, like he had written it quickly without overthinking, letting his guilt pour onto the page. She looked around her tiny apartment. The water stain on the ceiling, at the eviction notice still taped to her door, at the life she had been clinging to with bloody fingernails, knowing it was slipping away no matter how hard she fought. And then she looked back at the keys. Riverside Towers, Penthouse 4A, place where she would not have to worry about rent, where she could breathe without the constant weight of financial terror crushing her chest, where she could figure out what came next without the clock ticking down to homelessness. But accepting it felt like what? Like admitting he had won? Like letting him buy his way out of guilt? Or was she being stubborn and foolish, letting pride stand between her and a chance at stability? Samantha closed her eyes, the keys pressing into her palm hard enough to leave marks. What was she supposed to do? Nicholas Hayes had destroyed her life with careless certainty, and now he was trying to rebuild it with, what, generosity? Guilt? Some twisted sense of obligation? She did not know, but she did know one thing: she was tired. So incredibly tired of fighting just to survive, and maybe she deserved something good for once, even if it came from the man who had hurt her. Samantha opened her eyes and looked at the address engraved on the keychain one more time. Then she stood up, grabbed her jacket and walked out the door. She had to see it. She had to know if this was real. or just another cruel trick from a universe that seemed determined to break her. Riverside Towers looked even more intimidating up close. The building stretched toward the sky like a monument to everything Samantha was not. Successful, polished, untouchable. Glass panels reflected the afternoon sun, making the entire structure gleam like something out of a dream or a nightmare, depending on how you looked at it. She stood on the sidewalk, keys clutched in her fist, debating whether to turn around and pretend this had never happened. But curiosity, that stubborn, relentless curiosity, pushed her forward. The lobby took her breath away, marble floors, crystal chandeliers, leather seating that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. A concierge desk manned by someone who looked like they had stepped out of a fashion magazine. The woman behind the desk looked up as Samantha approached, her professional smile faltering slightly as she took in Samantha's worn jacket and faded jeans. "Can I help you?" The tone was polite, but there was a question underneath it. "What are you doing here?" Samantha lifted her chin, refusing to be intimidated. "I am here for Penthouse 4. The woman's eyebrows rose. "Penthouse 4? May I see your credentials?" Samantha held up the keys. "Will these work?" Something shifted in the woman's expression. Surprise, maybe, or confusion, but she nodded slowly and gestured toward the elevators. "Fourth bank, top floor. Welcome to Riverside Towers, Miss Thompson." Samantha Thompson. The woman typed something into her computer, then looked up with a more genuine smile. "Everything appears to be in order. Enjoy your stay, Miss Thompson." The elevator was all mirrors and polished brass. She caught sight of herself and almost laughed at the absurdity. She looked completely out of place, exhausted, underdressed like someone who had wandered into the wrong life by accident. The ride up was smooth and silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that existed only in places where money had soundproofed everything uncomfortable out of existence. When the doors opened, they revealed a private hallway. Just one door at the end. Penthouse 4. Samantha walked forward on legs that felt like jelly, inserted the key, and turned the lock. The door swung open, and her breath caught in her throat. The apartment was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, sunlight streaming in to illuminate hardwood floors that gleamed like honey. The living room was enormous, bigger than her entire apartment, with furniture that looked like it belonged in an interior design magazine. She stepped inside, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. To her left, an open kitchen with marble countertops and stainless steel appliances that looked like they had never been used. To her right, a dining area with a table that could seat 8. And straight ahead, those windows. Those impossible, beautiful windows. Samantha walked forward in a daze, barely processing what she was seeing. There were 2 bedrooms, both with king-sized beds, both with their own bathrooms featuring rain showers and soaking tubs. The master closet was bigger than her current bedroom. Everything was perfect, clean, untouched. She returned to the living room and stood in front of those massive windows, looking out at the city below. People moving like ants, cars streaming through streets, life happening at a distance, and she was here. In this impossible place, Nicholas Hayes had given her this. Samantha sank onto the plush couch, her legs finally giving out. 2 days ago, she had a job, a routine, a life that made sense even if it was hard. Yesterday, that life had been destroyed in front of everyone. And today she was sitting in a penthouse that cost more money than she would earn in 10 lifetimes. How was she supposed to reconcile the man who had humiliated her with the man who had given her this? Nicholas Hayes was arrogant, stubborn, quick to judge, but he was also this, whatever this was. She pulled out her phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then, before she could second-guess herself, she typed out a message. "I saw the penthouse. Do not know what to say." She hit send before she could change her mind. 3 seconds later, her phone buzzed. "You do not have to say anything. Just be safe. Simple, direct, no expectations." Samantha stared at the message, something warm and uncomfortable stirring in her chest. Nicholas Hayes was a complicated man, and she had absolutely no idea what to do about that. Samantha spent the first night in the penthouse barely sleeping, not because the bed was uncomfortable, It was the most luxurious thing she had ever felt in her life. Not because the place was unfamiliar, it was beautiful beyond anything she had imagined, but because her mind would not stop spinning. She lay in the massive bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of how her life had changed so drastically in 48 hours. From fired and humiliated to this, living in a place that felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone successful, someone worthy, not her. At 3 a.m, she gave up on sleep and wandered to the kitchen. The refrigerator was stocked. She had discovered that earlier with shock. Fresh food, expensive brands. Someone had prepared this place for her arrival. Nicholas, probably. Or someone he had hired. She made herself tea and stood by those enormous windows, looking out at the city lights stretched below like fallen stars. Her phone buzzed on the counter. The text from Maria. "Girl, where are you? Your landlord came by the restaurant looking for you. Said you disappeared. Are you okay?" Samantha stared at the message, guilt twisting in her stomach. She had not told anyone about the penthouse, had not explained where she was or what had happened. She had just vanished into this new life without a word. What was she supposed to say? That the man who destroyed her had given her a luxury penthouse out of guilt? That she had accepted it despite everything? It sounded insane even in her own head. She typed back a simple response. "I am safe. We'll explain soon, promise, not a lie, but not the whole truth either." Morning came slowly, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Samantha showered in the rain shower that felt like a warm waterfall, dressed in the same clothes she had worn yesterday, and tried to figure out what came next. She could not just hide here forever. Could not just accept this gift and pretend her problems had vanished. She still needed a job. Still needed to figure out her life. Still needed to deal with the fact that Nicholas Hayes had upended everything she thought she knew about fairness and justice. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost did not answer. But something made her pick up. "Miss Thompson?" A woman's voice. Professional. Crisp. "This is Jennifer Cole from Hayes Enterprises. Mr. Hayes asked me to reach out to you regarding a potential opportunity." Samantha's grip tightened on the phone. "What kind of opportunity?" "Mr. Hayes would like to offer you a position within the corporate office. Executive assistant to the operations director. The salary is $90,000 annually, plus benefits and performance bonuses. If you are interested, we can schedule an interview for this afternoon." $90,000. Samantha's current salary, her former salary, had been $32,000. This was more than double. Almost triple. Why? The word came out sharper than she intended. Why would he offer me that? There was a pause on the other end. "Mr. Hayes believes you have skills and qualities that would be valuable to the company. The position is legitimate, Miss Thompson. This is not charity, but it felt like charity. It felt like Nicholas trying to ease his guilt by throwing money at the problem he had created. "I need time to think about it," Samantha said carefully. "Of course. I will email you the details. Take your time." But Mr. Hayes did want me to emphasize that this offer stands regardless of whether you choose to remain in the penthouse. The two are not connected. After the call ended, Samantha sat on the couch, her head in her hands. Nicholas was trying. She could see that. He was trying to fix what he had broken, trying to give her opportunities, trying to make amends. But it all felt so transactional, like he was checking boxes, apologize, provide housing, offer job, problem solved. Except it was not that simple. She did not want to be his charity case, did not want to be the guilt project he undertook to make himself feel better about his mistakes. She wanted respect, recognition that she had value beyond being someone he had wronged. A chance to prove herself on her own terms. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nicholas himself. "Jennifer said she spoke with you. I want you to know. The job offer is real. You are qualified. This is not about what happened. This is about what you can do." Samantha stared at the message, something shifting in her chest. He was trying to give her agency, trying to make it clear that this was not pity. But was that true? Or was he just good at saying the right things? She typed back slowly. "I need to think about it. This is all a lot." His response came immediately. "I understand. Take all the time you need, and that was what finally cracked something open inside her. Maybe he really did understand. 3 days passed before Samantha made her decision. 3 days of living in the penthouse like a ghost, haunting someone else's life. 3 days of staring at her phone, reading and rereading the job offer email that Jennifer had sent. 3 days of wrestling with pride and practicality. On the 4th morning, she woke up with clarity. She could not move forward while drowning in uncertainty, could not build a future while clinging to the past, could not let what Nicholas had done define everything that came next. So she picked up her phone and typed a message. "I will take the interview. When can we schedule it?" Jennifer's response came within minutes, professional, efficient. "Tomorrow at 10. I will send you the address." Samantha spent the rest of the day preparing. She had exactly one professional outfit, a simple black dress she had worn to her college graduation 3 years ago. It still fit, thankfully, though it looked a bit worn around the edges. She practiced answers to potential interview questions in front of the mirror. Reminded herself that she was qualified, that she had skills, that she deserved this opportunity, even if it had come from the most complicated circumstances imaginable. The next morning, she arrived at Hayes Enterprises 15 minutes early. The building was all glass and steel, modern and imposing. The lobby buzzed with people in expensive suits moving with purpose and confidence. Samantha felt like an imposter, but she lifted her chin, walked to the reception desk, and announced herself with as much confidence as she could muster. Jennifer met her in the lobby. She was exactly what Samantha had imagined, polished, professional, with kind eyes that softened when she shook Samantha's hand. "It is lovely to meet you in person, Miss Thompson. Please follow me." They took the elevator to the 12th floor. Jennifer made small talk about the weather, the building, the company culture. Samantha appreciated the effort to put her at ease. The operations director turned out to be a woman named Catherine Wells. Mid-40s, sharp gaze, but with a warm smile that immediately made Samantha feel less nervous. The interview lasted 45 minutes. Catherine asked thoughtful questions, listened carefully to Samantha's answers, discussed the role, the expectations, the opportunities for growth. It felt legitimate, real, not like charity disguised as employment. "You have excellent instincts," Catherine said near the end, "and your experience in customer service gives you a perspective we desperately need in operations. Too many people in corporate forget that real people are on the other end of every decision we make." Samantha felt something warm bloom in her chest. Recognition, validation. "When can you start?" Catherine asked, leaning back in her chair. You are offering me the position, unless you have changed your mind?" Catherine smiled. "You are exactly what we need, Miss Thompson. And for what it is worth, Nicholas told me what happened, what he did. I want you to know that this offer has nothing to do with that. I reviewed your references, spoke to people who worked with you. You earned this," the words hit harder than Samantha expected. "Earned this, not given out of guilt, not handed over out of obligation. Earned." "I can start Monday," Samantha said, her voice steadier now. "Perfect. Jennifer will handle all the onboarding paperwork. Welcome to Hayes Enterprises, Samantha." They shook hands, and Samantha walked out of that office feeling something she had not felt in days. Hope. Real, tangible hope. She was halfway to the elevator when she saw him. Nicholas stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows at the end of the hallway, his back to her, phone pressed to his ear. He was gesturing as he spoke, his posture tense. Samantha hesitated. She could leave without saying anything, could slip into the elevator and disappear. But something made her stop. Maybe it was gratitude. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was just the need for closure. She walked toward him slowly. He must have sensed her presence because he turned, his dark eyes finding hers immediately. He said something into the phone. She could not hear what, and ended the call. For a moment, they just looked at each other. "You took the interview," he said finally. "I did." Samantha clasped her hands together to keep them from shaking. "Catherine offered me the position." Something flickered across his face. "Relief, maybe? Or satisfaction? Good. You will do well there, thank you." The words felt strange in her mouth. For everything. The penthouse. The opportunity. I know I have not been gracious about it. You do not owe me gratitude, Samantha. His voice was quiet, sincere. You owe me nothing. I owed you everything. The honesty in his tone made her chest tighten. I am still angry, she admitted. About what you did. How you did it. You should be. Nicholas held her gaze. I do not expect forgiveness. I needed to try to make it right. Samantha nodded slowly. You are trying. I see that now. Is that enough? The question hung in the air between them. Was it enough? Could trying erase the damage? Could good intentions undo public humiliation? She did not know, but maybe. Maybe it was a start. Ask me again in a few months, Samantha said softly. And for the first time since this entire nightmare began, Nicholas Hayes smiled. 6 months later, everything had changed. Samantha stood in front of the mirror in her penthouse now, not just a borrowed space, adjusting the collar of her blouse. She had a presentation to give in 30 minutes. Her first major project at Hayes Enterprises. She was nervous, excited, ready. Her phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. Conference room in 20. You are going to be amazing, Samantha smiled. Catherine had become more than a boss. She had become a mentor, a friend. Life had a strange way of surprising you. The presentation went better than she had hoped. The operations team responded well to her proposals. Even the executives nodded with approval, and Nicholas sat in the back of the room watching quietly. When she finished, he was the first to stand and applaud. Something had shifted between them over the past 6 months. The anger had faded. The resentment had softened. In its place, something else, something neither of them had expected. Respect, understanding, and maybe something more. After the meeting, Nicholas caught up with her in the hallway. That was impressive, he said. You have real talent for this. Thank you. Samantha felt her cheeks warm. I had good teachers. They walked together toward the elevators, the silence between them comfortable now. Familiar. I owe you an apology, Nicholas said suddenly. Samantha looked at him in surprise. You already apologized. Multiple times. Not for firing you. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. For assuming I knew everything. For being so certain I was right that I did not stop to consider I might be wrong. That is who I was, arrogant, stubborn, convinced my judgment was infallible. Was? Samantha raised an eyebrow. He laughed on a real genuine laugh. Still working on it. But you taught me something important. What is that? That being powerful does not mean being right. That certainty without compassion is just cruelty. His dark eyes held hers. You made me better, Samantha. Even when I did not deserve it. Her throat tightened with unexpected emotion. You gave me a second chance, she said softly. When I had lost everything. You could have just written a check and walked away. But you actually tried. I wanted to do the right thing. You did. Samantha smiled. Eventually, they stood there in the hallway, the afternoon sun streaming through the windows, casting long shadows across the polished floors. 6 months ago, Nicholas Hayes had destroyed her life with careless certainty, and then he had rebuilt it with careful intention. He was still stubborn, still believed he was right most of the time, still had that commanding presence that made people listen when he spoke, but he had learned to pause. To question, to consider that maybe, just maybe, he did not have all the answers, and Samantha, she had learned that forgiveness was not weakness, that accepting help was not surrender, that sometimes the people who hurt you could also be the ones who helped you become who you were meant to be. Dinner? Nicholas asked suddenly. To celebrate your presentation? Samantha pretended to consider it. Is this your way of asking me on a date, Mr. Hayes? Would that be inappropriate? But there was a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Probably, Samantha grinned. But I never did like playing it safe. Neither did I. They walked toward the elevator together, side by side. Equals now in ways that had nothing to do with money or position or power. Just two people who had found each other in the wreckage of a terrible mistake. And built something beautiful from the broken pieces. The doors opened. They stepped inside, and as the elevator descended, Samantha caught Nicholas looking at her with an expression she had never seen before. Not guilt, not obligation, just possibility and maybe. That was enough. If this story touched your heart, if it made you think about second chances and the power of redemption, then I have a small favor to ask. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And most importantly, tell me in the comments what you thought. Did Samantha make the right choice? Would you have forgiven Nicholas? Your voice matters here.